once again. This is Nuance, the first Nuance of 2025, if you can believe it. We'll be speaking of congestion pricing now that it's in effect here in New York. Of course, I'm Mike Scala, joined as always by Jay Carter, also known as Timmy, the hip hop artist in the chair of Bilam Tokyo. What's going on in 2025, Jay?
Right. This is the first show of the new year.
It is. Uh,
Uh, and what a year it is going to be.
what a year it has been already, right? I was in Florida, as I like to do around the new year. I took that drive, and it was a good drive, but I believe for the second year in a row, I got sick coming back. I don't know if it's the temperature rapidly changing, right? You drive back into the cold weather. In fact, I drove back in a snowstorm, which I wasn't happy about. You know, you go down to Florida to get away from the cold weather in New York and you're loving it, and went down to Key West and everything. You can imagine how nice that is in early January as compared to New York in the Northeast, right? And then you make your way back up to New York and literally hit the snow. In fact, it snowed from Virginia all the way home to Queens.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. My exact reaction. And I did get sick. I took a COVID test. We are negative. As you can see the one line, right?
Negative
So
is good.
negative is good. It's not COVID. It's a cold or a flu or something. I've been feeling it, but still kicking. So here we are.
Negative is good. Yeah, the flu has been on the rise this season. And I know some people have been feeling some things. But yeah, negative is always good for COVID and hopefully flu.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of a few other things that negative is good for. Yeah.
Well, not always. Let's revise that then. If we're looking at other things, negative isn't good for a bank account.
True, true. Okay, yeah. It is good for an STD test.
It is good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pregnancy test, I guess, depending on your perspective, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
So
Uh,
I got the shirt, Queens, New York. The whole shirt says where my story begins. Really nice shirt, and in the lettering, you actually see Queens, Flushing Meadow Park. But I wore this in Florida. I wore this shirt, and I also wore a Virginia is for Lovers shirt, which I picked up at the Woodrow Wilson Museum when I was there a few months back. And it became somewhat of a sociological experiment because I'm in South Florida here and people are reacting to these geographical shirts, right? So interestingly, I'm walking through the casino with my Queens, New York shirt. No one says a word. I sit at the poker table. Nobody says anything. And I'm like, okay, it's South Florida, right? Maybe people are used to the New Yorkers. People say that. South Florida is like the sixth borough of NYC, right? You hear things like that. So
hmm.
no one really batted an eye at the Queens, New York shirt at the casino. One person, though, in Miami, right? I'm on South Beach now, walking with the shirt. A guy walks by, he's holding hands with his girlfriend, and he spots the shirt and he looks at it. He goes, "So what part of Queens, New York?" Just like that.
Was
And
it DMX? Did you meet DMX?
it actually sounded a little bit like Uncle Murda, right? But he's from East New York. But this guy said, "So what part of Queens, New York?" Just like that. And I said South Queens. He goes, Corona. He keeps walking. So it was
Did
kind
he
of
not like Corona Queens?
Corona Queens, yeah.
Did he not like it?
No, no, he's from Corona Queens. That's why
Oh, okay,
he's
okay.
like, "So what part of Queens, New York?" And I said, "South Queens." He goes, "Corona," and then he keeps going. So I was like, nice. Uh, but that was a character, right? It's like, all right, cool. And he kind of looked like Fat Joe before he became Fat Joe, like Chubby Joe era. You know what I mean? Uh, and he had that voice, kind of like Uncle Murda. I don't know if he was on the spectrum or something like that. Like he seemed like a little bit off, but like a real character. You know what I mean? I was like, I appreciated that interaction with this character on the street in Miami.
Right.
Now the Virginia is for Lovers shirt got a whole different reaction, right? I was walking in the casino with that, and I came across this woman with a southern accent, and she was like, "I love your shirt." She's like, "I'm from Virginia." You can tell like deep into Virginia with that kind of accent, right? So I was like, "Oh, nice." And then I came across this other group of girls. This one girl, she kind of looked like a Filipino girl. She said, "I love your shirt." She's like pointing at the shirt and smiling. And I don't know if she was from Virginia or just trying to make conversation or whatever. I kind of got the idea. Maybe she was from Virginia because she said, "I love your shirt." So it's just like, oh, thank you. And then she had a group of friends with her, right? Her other friend was like, Virginia is for lovers. And then the other one was like, be my lover. And they all started laughing. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And then at the poker table, this guy was asking me if I was from VA. And I was like, actually, I'm from Queens. He's like, so how come you're wearing that shirt? And I said, well, I was down, I was there for a bit as well. And so we had a whole conversation. People were asking me about hiking opportunities in Virginia and all this other stuff. Like the dealer was in on it. Like everyone was like really curious about that shirt. So I just found that to be kind of fascinating that the Queen shirt really didn't get that much attention, but everybody was talking about the VA shirt.
I'm just kind of fascinated that people were sparking up so many conversations based on your shirts.
Yeah, what a fly shirts.
I'm just yeah, but just saying like
Yeah.
how
Well, there's one guy was talking a lot at the poker table, right? And he was talking about the shirt, and I said I'm from Queens, and he's like, "You don't have a Queens accent." He was disappointed. I guess he met a couple people from Queens while he was down there, and he was hoping to run into some really thick Queens accents, whatever he thought that was going to sound like, right? So, because he's like, I met someone, they didn't have the accent, and I said, yeah, I'm from Queens also, actually. He's like, you don't have it either. So I guess he was looking for that, but then he was asking me about casinos in Virginia, right? I was like, well, in the DC area, right? Like MGM Grand at National Harbor has a good poker room and things like that. So yeah, I guess the shirts sparked conversation, but more so the VA one than the Queens one. Unfortunately, I was looking for some more Queens talk, but my theory on that again is in South Florida, maybe they're just used to a lot of New Yorkers running around.
it could be. It could be. It's one of the spots that New Yorkers go to when they're ready to leave New York.
When they're ready to leave New York. Was that a Seinfeld bit that they just get old and die in Florida or something?
Well, I mean, it's been I don't know, I wouldn't say a stereotype, but it's a lot of New Yorkers move down to South Florida to it's a little well, it used to be a little bit cheaper, and then the weather is warmer, and you know,
Yeah,
that's kind of a
so
common
that was
thing.
Jadakiss line, right? Which was that quoted from was it a Godfather, a movie, a Goodfellas? One of those movies, right? Jadakiss had a line where he's like, "The weather is nice and the price is much cheaper," talking about Miami.
Mm,
I think that
yeah, I mean, it's
like they said like gangsters would go to Miami to get away from New York. But yeah, it is a New York thing. Yeah, you're right. I actually knew someone from Miami who said that in her high school, everyone said they were from New York, even if they weren't. They were like, "Oh, my grandfather comes from Brooklyn, so I'm a New Yorker too." And like everyone wanted to claim New York in Miami.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I like this kind of stuff though. I like traveling and seeing different people and people's perspectives on things. Right, getting out of your own bubble. You know what I mean? We stay in our bubble so much that when you get to meet different people, that's why I like driving up and down the coast. Even right, all right, it's I-95 down to Florida, but you get to experience a whole lot. You know what I mean? It's not just the weather that changes; the people change, the culture changes, everything changes driving from state to state.
Right, right. Absolutely.
And to document everything, I picked up the GoPro to show.
Oh, snap. You
It's
got the
not an
new
advertisement, I'm not paid to do this, but I do actually really appreciate this camera.
you
It's a
got the GoPro?
Hero 13 Black. It's the latest model. Now I got the media mod with it because this is a piece that you put onto it. What that does is it first of all it has a better microphone on it, so it's a little bit better than the camera's microphone, and you got the little
Uh,
windscreen that comes with it if you want to attach it. But what it also does is it enables you to attach external microphones, which you can't do with just the GoPro, but with the media mod piece you can. And the DJI mic is something else. This is the DJI mic 2, and this is really,
okay.
really, really nice. This pairs really nicely with the GoPro with the media mod. It comes in this nice case here, and you can plug this in, right? All the pieces are in this case, and you can plug it in with the USB, so you can charge everything at once, right?
Mm,
You pop it open in here, you can see it comes with actually two receivers as well as a transmitter.
okay.
Or am I saying that backwards? I always mix those up. Two transmitters and one receiver, right? So Really, really nice. These also come with the little squirrel tails you can put to block out the wind if you're outside. But
Uh-huh.
quality on this is really, really, really good. So it's really nice to pair with the GoPro if you want good audio. But what I discovered about this, what I really appreciate about the camera, is that it offers unlimited cloud storage. Now I'm kind of giving away a secret here, I think, because
Uh-oh.
people know about this. I think they're going to take advantage, like I am right now. You can take as many videos as you want with this. You upload them at night, right? As soon as you plug in your camera, when you start charging it, it'll automatically upload to the cloud. And it literally gives you unlimited storage space for GoPro taking videos. So what you could do is you could take as many videos as you want. Like if I want to document my life for a year, right? I can just take videos every single day, not even worrying about, oh, I'm taking up too much space. I got to save it
Right.
with external storage, hard drives, SD cards, whatever. You don't need to worry about that. You can just take video every day, upload it. Now you have a whole collection of videos, right? So if I want to edit a documentary in a year about what I did in 2025, or let's say a YouTube series, whatever. I got so much footage now, like a whole library's worth of footage because of that unlimited cloud storage. And that's really, to me, a game changer.
Unlimited storage space for video, especially high quality video. And I'm
Exactly.
assuming, I mean, that's at least that's got to be HD, if not 4K.
More than that. So yeah, so it has like 1,000 different options here, right? It actually goes up to 5.3K, which I've been using.
Yes. So,
So you could do 4K, you could do 1080p, you can do whatever. You could also do different bit rates, right? You could do different frame rates, different shutter speeds. You can adjust all the settings, and of course, the higher quality that you use, the more storage space it's going to take. So some of these videos are not very long videos, but they're like 3 gigs or something for a couple minutes.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. The higher you get up,
Yeah, I went and I got myself a terabyte hard drive just in case, but I realized, at least for now, I don't need it. Maybe I will need it going forward when I start editing because I want to be able to pull some of these clips into the computer or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you
right?
don't want to edit them from the cloud. So you might want to
No.
download them to the storage. So
Right.
that kind of thing. I might even get a more powerful computer, to be honest, when it's time to really do that heavy editing. But for now, all I gotta do is upload to the cloud, and you can go on the website, the GoPro website, log into your account,
Yep.
and scroll through your videos, and it organizes them by day. And it's really cool. It's like a live video journal of my life. I can look at, like, oh, especially because I was just in Florida, right? I was taking videos everywhere. What was I doing on this day? Oh, here I go. Here I go on the beach in Key West. Here I was driving down, to the Keys. I was in Miami. I was in Hollywood, whatever. And you can actually go and look at videos from like every day of your life. It organizes them beautifully. You can stream them, so you don't have to download them. You can stream them on the site and then pull which clips you want if you want to start editing.
Right. Yeah. That for video editing, unlimited storage is crazy. That's
And guess how much it costs, by the way? Guess how much that it costs?
that GoPro. It's probably like
No, 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 no,
350.
no. The subscription for 1 year for unlimited space.
Oh, I don't know. How much would that be?
So for the first year, I got it for $25. I think it's $50 a year after that.
$50 a year is not bad for unlimited space.
It is not at all. Not at all.
That is
Especially when you
pretty
start looking
good.
at how much it would cost you to try to do it otherwise. And that's really a selling point for the GoPro camera, right? Because there are other cameras out there that are nice. People talk about the DJI cameras and stuff like that. But that
Right.
unlimited storage space, I mean, that's everything. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. So
Yeah.
I also picked up this, by the way. This accessory here is the Volta, GoPro Volta. So it's like a selfie stick. You attach the camera to it, but the
It
cool thing about it,
stabilized it, right?
not really, it's not like a gimbal, but I guess it could help you. It's like any other selfie stick in that sense. Like you could just hold it steady, like you would with any other selfie stick. But what's nice about this is it charges the camera, so it has a bigger battery in it than the GoPro does, and
Mm.
so people criticize the GoPro for its battery limitation. They say this one, the new model, they say is a little bit better than the past, but you can, depending on your settings and whatnot, you can basically expect somewhere about an hour and a half worth of battery life. But with
Okay.
this, you get about 3 times that. You can get like 4.5 hours because this will plug into the GoPro and keep it charged. So as long as you keep the Volta charged, it's charging your device as you're using it.
Gotcha. So there's an extra, it's like a battery pack for
Basically,
the
yeah,
GoPro.
yeah. So keep it running longer, and it doubles as a selfie stick. It also has buttons on it, so you can control the camera from here and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice, you know what I mean? Because I would probably look to get some kind of selfie stick for video and stuff like that. But this is the battery extension, and it also doubles as a selfie stick.
You remember a few years ago, actually, it's probably been pre-COVID by now, but like you just mentioned selfie stick. Remember, they were just like everywhere for a minute, and it was
Yeah,
just like an epidemic, and
right.
there was like so much hate and
Yeah, and
backlash.
it died out, right? It died out in like 6 months, right? It was like
Yeah,
we got so much heat. But now, with so many people creating content, it's kind of back in style. Not the selfie stick so much that you would attach to your phone to take selfies with, but a stick like that you would attach to a video camera, right? Because you're out, you're taking videos of things, but then you can easily turn it on yourself, but still have a distance from you, so it's not like right in your face. The GoPro isn't good for close-up shots either, so you want to have a few feet in
right,
the camera. So that's really a good use for it, right? A lot of people who are YouTubers and vloggers, things like that, they'll use that, right? Because they're going out, they're taking videos of themselves all day.
right,
So yeah, that's really cool. And then when you pair it with the microphone, you also have some distance, right? So it isn't just you having to talk close to the camera to get good audio. You can move the camera around. You can put it on other things. If you have two mics going, right, two people wearing a mic, you guys could be walking and
right,
whatever. The video is picking up what it's picking up, but the audio is going to stay consistent. You don't have to be talking into the camera.
right, right, right.
It's all nice. It's all really cool, and I'm looking forward to creating some really nice content with this. Like I said, right now, kind of just stockpiling footage. You know what I mean? Just taking
Right.
stuff, taking content, and then I'll have a whole library of stuff to work with, and we'll see what we can do with it.
Absolutely. Well, by that time, you may have a one less platform that you're able to disseminate the video on.
This is true. This is true. That's TikTok. The Supreme Court heard arguments about their constitutional right to stay alive and didn't seem too sympathetic, to be honest. It seems like it's going to uphold the TikTok ban, right? Not
Right.
find in favor of TikTok. They were saying, you don't have a constitutional right to be owned by whomever you want to be owned by, right? They cited legitimate governmental concerns in uh, the government banning this particular company, right? This Chinese held company or what have you, from running TikTok. They said that's not a constitutional issue, right? It's not a matter of free speech for the users because they could sell to someone else. That they weren't stopping people from using the platform. It's just you just can't be owned by this entity.
Mhm.
So that's what the Supreme Court justices were saying on the bench when the arguments were being made. They didn't seem to buy TikTok's argument.
Yeah, it's, I'm seeing a lot of hyperbole too around the conversation. Because of course the users are very emotional about
Mm-hmm.
not having access to a platform that they've come to use and enjoy using. Um, and ignoring some of the other things or just saying some wild statements. So I saw one recently. Someone said that uh, if TikTok gets banned, the US is gonna essentially become Cuba and be cut off from the rest of the world by information.
Well, let's take that
Like,
for a second, because
really?
if that were to be true, that would be a sad state of affairs about the US, right?
Like,
We're
really? Like,
so
it's,
dependent on TikTok as a society that we're going to just go to hell without TikTok, or really, like, that's where we're at.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, really? Like,
Yeah,
so there's no other forms of information. The
right,
US is
right.
gonna be completely cut off information wise from the rest of the world because TikTok exists. A platform that's really only been popular for like 5 years
And
at
by the
this
way,
point.
started out as a lip syncing platform primarily.
Right. It was like, what was it, Musically before?
Musically, yeah, yeah.
Like, calm down a little bit. Chill
Right,
out just a little bit.
right, right. Chill out a bit. Chill out a
Oh,
bit.
or people who say, oh, they see the videos on this app that I never see anywhere else. Like, most of the videos are dual uploaded to
Yes,
like
exactly.
Instagram Reels and
YouTube
YouTube
Shorts.
Shorts. Like,
Yeah, and that's my
calm
thing.
down.
I was actually thinking that recently. Oh man, because I have been using TikTok primarily for my music content, right?
Right, right,
But I've been also putting videos on YouTube Shorts, and I've been usually over the past few months making them mostly for TikTok, but then saying to myself, well, I've got this nice TikTok video. I should also get it up on YouTube because it's a different audience.
right,
So I've been reminding myself recently, oh, I got to check to see if some of those more recent TikToks I posted weren't put to YouTube yet. But
right,
basically, that's what it's going to become. If there's no TikTok, I'm still going to be making the videos and post
right,
them to YouTube Short to maybe some other places.
right. Now, Now, the opposite of the not the opposite, but on the flip side of the argument, TikTok has a better algorithm for getting your views
That's true.
seen
Discovery.
than YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels.
Right.
And so you have a better chance of getting more views in that way and building an audience a little bit easier. But it's not going to be like,
But YouTube Shorts is not bad either. I gotta say. And I was looking at the performance on some of my videos. Some of them are doing even better on YouTube Shorts or equal to TikTok.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
really not bad either. And the good thing about YouTube is you can do long form and short form content. So the shorts
right,
are really good to promote your longer form content. Like
right,
do documentary style footage or whatever, right? Have an hour
right,
video online or something crazy. You can do the shorts, and they're like commercials for the longer content, and they can drag people in. Because I watch YouTube that way now. Sometimes I'll scroll through the shorts and find something that looks intriguing. I'm like, oh, what's
right,
that guy about, or whatever, and then I'll click on the channel or the long form video and then start looking at other stuff.
right. Because you can link it directly to the long form video.
Right, right, and
Yeah,
I do that for my music as well. If I have a short video where I'm performing 15 seconds or a verse of a song or whatever, I'll link it to the song. So if they like what they,
right,
if they're into it, they can click on that and get the whole song.
right, right.
So I mean, I
Um,
think it is good for that. Maybe if TikTok is forced to shut down in the US, maybe YouTube or other platforms will improve their discovery
well,
algorithms. I don't know.
I doubt it. But it's I don't know, it's just kind of crazy. The hyperbole around it is kind of crazy. And I understand, listen, I disagree with the ban, but like I said, it's you know, you're not gonna be in like an information bubble without
Right.
TikTok.
Right. And if you are, that probably says something about where you were before. And maybe you're actually going someplace healthier without it, if that was the case.
Yeah, yeah. Now I one thing that's happening, which is a little bit perplexing, but um this app called Red Note, which is another Chinese social media app,
Mhm.
is shot to the top of the app downloads with people leaving TikTok to go to Red Note, to prepare for this ban. So they're moving over that way, kind of like when people did the mass exodus from Twitter going to Blue Sky.
Blue Ski.
Uh,
I call it Blue Ski. I know it's called Blue Sky. I prefer Blue Ski. I think it's funnier that way.
and
And
I
I,
think people are doing it in
but don't
one.
forget Threads. Threads was a thing for all of 6 days.
Threads was a thing for like 6 days. But the thing is, people, instead of going from TikTok and pushing to their Instagram profile, which they probably already have, a lot of people, because of Mark Zuckerberg's recent announcement of ending fact checking and basically kissing the Trump ring, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, we don't want to go there either. And they're going to this other app, which is called Red Note, which I don't know anything about, but
So we
a
got
lot of
Blue
people
Ski
are
and
moving.
Red Note. Are you supposed to be like political subdivisions here? Like if you're
Well,
blue, you go here. If you're red, you go there.
Blue Sky is from the States, Red Note is from China, so maybe this is a geopolitical fight.
Oh, so is red note meaning like communism? Is that what they're going for? Like Chinese red? Like Soviet red?
I don't know. I don't know. But that's where a lot of people are going. And I don't know much about the app. Anything really. It's really called Zhao Hongshu or something, but people call it Red Note.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess it's
Is
similar to
it?
TikTok
It's like
in
a
some.
TikTok with organic discovery because that really was. And I didn't catch on to this for a long time. I was like, why do I gotta get on TikTok? But the strength of it really has been organic discovery, right? It
Right.
does that better than any other platform so far that I've seen.
And that's what made it grow as fast as it did in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. You
It's
post
that algorithm.
Yeah, you post a TikTok, and especially if you get the right hashtags and you're categorizing things right. But if you post a TikTok, you can get, from what I understand, 80% of the audience being new people who haven't seen you before, 20%
Right.
approximately maybe being your repeated audience. So you're
Right.
growing your audience, right? Those 20%, are still seeing your videos pop up here and there, but 80% of the people are brand new. So every day, if you're posting new TikToks, you're getting a whole new audience every single day, and you can expand really quickly like that.
Right, right. And actually Instagram introduced a feature to try to, I don't know, I guess try to tap into some of that. Because you can do a test audience on anything you post on Instagram. And what it'll do is I think for like the first day, it'll show it only to people that aren't following you. And
Mm,
then you'll be able to gauge what the engagement was like before you roll it out to your official audience to see if people are messing with it or not.
okay, that's a new feature on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a new feature on Instagram. It's been around. It's been around for at least a month or more now. I
So
haven't used it yet to
is it
see
just
how
for
effective it
reels?
is.
Is it just for reels?
I believe it's for both. So you po upload something and it'll be a thing that you can select, and I forget what it says. It's like trial or test or something like that, and it'll only show to people not following you. And then after the end of it, you can look at the statistics and decide whether or not you want to post it to your actual feed. And so
Oh,
it's like
that's interesting.
kind of if you don't want to like if you want to do something new maybe
Yeah.
that's not what your normal audience is up on, you can test it in a test audience first, see what the result might be before messing with your brand, so to speak.
Okay.
So, you know,
And it's funny though because I kind of look at it in the opposite way, in that my audience already knows me and presumably likes me, unless they hate following me. But it's my audience, it's my people, and so I would feel more comfortable trying something out with them than strangers. Right? Like if my
I can see
audience
that.
likes it, I'm like, now okay, my people like it. It's ready for prime time. You know, not like the
Yeah.
world likes it, so now I can show it to my friends.
I can see that argument as well. But
Although,
there's also the thing with social media, people who influencers and have big followings, they have like kind of this. A lot of people complain about it is where the audience follows them for a specific reason and
yeah,
doesn't really allow them to grow to do other things. And so they feel boxed in creatively because they have to provide the same type of content or else their audience just won't mess with it.
yeah,
So,
and now that I said what I said out loud, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it's kind of a perverse thing, but
right.
some people don't support you until they see other people supporting you.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing too. So that's the people, that's what's on the horizon. Lemon 8 is another one that people are flocking to, but Lemon 8 is also a Chinese app and it's owned by ByteDance that owns TikTok as well. Um,
So we can't get no American apps
you
going.
know what I'm saying? Where's the American apps at?
Yeah,
What's going on with the American apps?
yeah,
And this is what will be interesting, I think, is if people do flock to Lemonade, and they flock into Red Note, both are Chinese-owned companies. That doesn't change the the issue really from what the government had a problem with,
hmm,
because the laws in place in China are still the same as far as the government can take any of the files from any of the companies that are owned there, which is one of the privacy concerns that governments had, not just the US, but around the world. India banned TikTok in 2020. The EU looked into it. Even politicians in Japan looked into it as well. So that doesn't change anything because it's just different apps. There's still Chinese-based apps.
yeah,
So are they going to go after these apps at this as the same way that they went after TikTok? Now, from what I understand, the law or the bill or whatever it was that's provided for this ban on TikTok doesn't necessarily specifically name TikTok. It's more about um uh, a general premise that I'm imagine these other apps could fall under. But it would have to be enforced, I guess. So we're
right,
gonna
right, and also legislation could be updated or passed again. I mean, if
right.
right, if something falls to the cracks, they can like, oh, well, listen, maybe we didn't contemplate this when we wrote the original law, but this falls under what we were trying to prohibit in the first place, so now we're going to expand it to cover this too.
Right, right. So this could just be, just a temporary thing, you know.
Yeah, 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 and we'll see, right? Maybe the law ends up getting reversed, and it'll come back. But as of now, it looks like what, the 19th, I believe. I think it's
The
January 19th.
19th that TikTok is supposed to
The
be
ban is scheduled to go into effect unless the Supreme Court stops it, and it looks like they're not going to stop it, but we don't know for sure
right.
yet, right?
Right. And then so people's options from what I've been looking into, it's not like it's going to be illegal for people to have TikTok on their phones.
Mhm.
What's going to happen is the app is going to have be pulled from the app stores. So if you got it, you won't be able to update it with the newest versions.
Okay.
And there might be issues with American servers routing the information through, so you might not be able to get all features or any feeds.
So
So
it's
your
not
app's
just
just
going to
going to
go
become
dark.
dead.
It's not going to just
It,
go dark in the US.
I think it's going to be a slow darkness,
Okay.
a slow darkening.
A descent into darkness.
Unless,
Yeah.
yeah, unless the parent company just says, you know what, we're just pulling everything and we're just going to block the US IPs and we're done. I think it'd be a slow darkening as the app just starts to die because there's nothing it can do.
Well, that's depressing. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty depressing in that regard, but you know, we're gonna see what happens. The latest rumor or the latest news talking around this issue is that even though China or the parent company has said they're not gonna sell to a U.S. company and divest from it, as per the court case, that China is contemplating selling to Elon Musk. That's on the table,
Mhm.
which that could be a very major, that could be an even worse problem than what they've got now by having one person have that much control over American
Yeah.
discourse.
Well, let's not get stressed out over what has not happened yet.
Right.
Let's save that for a future episode because I
Yes.
do want to talk about what has happened. First of all,
Yes.
shout out to Brian Bystro. You know, Andre has been on here numerous times. Malik Sam
Yes.
has been on here as well, right? They are partners in this firm. I happen to represent them. I am counsel to this political firm. I also use them for my own political services, right, for my campaigns. And they did make it to the top 100 political consultants in New York State per city and state. And so that was nice to see. They have a write up here about how they helped our assemblywoman, Stacey Pfeffer Amato, expand her lead, right? Last time she ran for re-election, she only won by 15 votes, believe it or not. So
Mm,
people who say voting doesn't matter, 15 votes, right, made up this difference. And that was
that's
after
a
big
big,
counts and
that's
everything.
a good, a slim lead.
Yeah, so that was in 2022. This write up here talks about how she hired this firm this past year and she expanded her lead to 1,500 votes. And so
Mm,
obviously the firm played a big role in that. Um, Again, shout out to them. Congratulations on making the list. I want to see them move up the list as years come. But let's keep in mind, this is a list of top 100 consultants in the entire state. They, up until now, have been primarily based in South Queens and the Rockaway. So starting to expand out, right? They have a big foothold here. And I know I've helped where I have been able to in terms of their outreach. But they've got the local state senator, James Sanders, both assembly members now. They do work for Amato as well as Khalil Anderson, who's a friend of ours, and many others as well. So good to see. You know what I mean? Good to see this. And I do want to
yeah.
see a further expansion of the business because they do good work for a lot of people.
Congratulations to them. Definitely shout out to them.
Yes. All right. Now let's get to the main topic here of congestion pricing because it has gone
Yeah.
into effect in New York. And we want to hear about how it's affecting people's commutes. I personally did not and do not support it. I have talked about this in the past. I think we should be using a carrot method and not the stick, right? You're trying to punish drivers for driving. You know what I mean? People are just trying to get to work here. People are trying to get to school. People are trying to get to restaurants or plays, shows in the city, whatever they're doing. Why are you punishing people for this? You know what I mean? Congestion pricing. The idea is it's supposed to reduce the congestion in the city. Okay, a noble goal on its face, right? But why aren't we doing things like improving public transportation? Incentivize the good behavior instead of trying to punish the bad behavior. Because you're not punishing rich people. I think we've touched on this in the past. Some people try to justify this by saying, well, if you have the luxury of driving in New York City, you're rich, and so you can afford this. You know how many people, especially in areas like Queens, South Queens, and other parts of the city, they're not rich. They have to commute to work. And quite honestly, in places like the Rockaways and other spots, the public transit system is inadequate. It just is not a feasible option to do all the time, right? I mean, people do what they can, and you know, you can take a ferry downtown and take the A train, and you know, what have you. But oftentimes, people don't have another choice but to drive, or at least that's how they see it, right? That's how they see their situation, and
Right.
you know what I mean. You're punishing people for commuting. That's crazy. We always talked about in South Queens the toll, right, of the Cross Bay Bridge. We always said it was unfair. People even, you can go and look up old newspaper articles. People have made the argument that it was illegal. But the whole idea is you're tolling people to drive from Queens to Queens, right? Because you go from Howard Beach
Right.
to Rockaways and get a toll for that. Now there's a rebate system and all, but still, it's a toll bridge. Why is that? And how is that hurting us here locally? How does that harm the local economy? Right, by keeping us separated and making it harder and more prohibitive for us to get to where we got to go. Well,
Right.
now you're taking this concept and you're expanding it on a citywide, or at least you know, a big Manhattan-wide scale here, and punishing people who are coming into Manhattan from the other boroughs and driving within Manhattan now, south of 60th Street. Again, intra-borough fees, right? Now you're being told just to drive within Manhattan. You know what I mean?
Right.
To me, it's crazy. It's absolute insanity when we could be doing other things. People say, well, what's your solution? Again, number one, give us better public transit. We'll talk about the Queensland grant. That's a great thing. Great step.
All
Awesome.
right.
Do things like that, right? Fare evasion. How much money, we covered it here in the past as well. How much money has the MTA lost per year on fare evasion? People getting on the buses and, you know, jumping in turnstiles, whatever, without paying. Many millions, right? We're talking, I think it's in the hundreds of millions per year. Didn't we see that one time?
It was a staggering number. I don't remember
Yeah.
what it
It was
was.
150 million. We could look that up. It was a big number per year. I mean, if you address some of these issues, you don't need to turn to nonsensical solutions like punishing people for commuting. I think it's absolute insanity.
So so according to this article, according to this article here, it says, I don't know this site. It's called citiestoday.com. This is claiming that they've lost more than $700 million in 2023 from people skipping transit fares or evading tolls at bridges and tunnels.
So we're getting close
Uh,
to $1 billion in one year.
yeah, New York Times said that reported 690 million in fare evasion.
Yeah,
Said CBS said nearly 50% of New York City bus riders aren't paying fares.
nearly
Uh,
50%. So I
that's
underestimated that. I said
insane.
50
That
million,
is
more like
insane, bro. That's insane.
half of a billion
How
or
does that happen though? How do you get on the bus and not pay the fare and the bus
oh, it
driver not
happens.
know?
It happens. And that's what you
They
get when you
must
don't
be
have,
opening, they must be coming in the back door.
but that's what you get when you don't have proper enforcement. Now, you know, there are different
Well, there's not so,
ideologies.
to be fair,
Different
there's only so much
ideologies.
the bus driver can do.
Yeah, it's not the bus driver, but you also need transit police and things like that, right? But then there are people who say, well, we're over policed. Okay, but you got
Right,
to do something here, right? Because
right.
this the answer to let everyone get on the bus without paying and then charge people for driving? I mean, that's, you know what I mean? Like now we're working backwards here.
Well, and you know, in the case of bus, 50% of people not paying the fare, I don't think that charging drivers more to get in to make is going to make up that shortfall for one. And if the idea is it's going to push more people to public transit,
And
you're going to
not
have even more people
that's
skip.
actually a funny thought. I didn't even think about that, right? They're like, let's increase the tolls everywhere so that more people take public transit because that's going to reduce congestion. But if people are doing that and they're still not paying the fare,
Right.
then you're not making up that lost revenue. You get people out of the cars, so they're not paying the toll anymore. They're getting off
Right.
the trains and the buses, and they're not paying.
Right. And you're putting a bigger strain on the system.
Yeah.
I think I can only imagine. I mean, and of course, it's just not the bus, right? It's the turnstiles and this and that. But I'm thinking 50% at the bus, it's got to be people running in on the back door. Um, you might have to, one way to stop that, at least initially, is to not open the back door. But then when it's really crowded, people can't get out.
Mhm.
It's a mess. Wow, it's crazy.
What about people jumping in turnstiles on the subway?
Jumping turnstiles, how do you deal with that there, they can install those revolving doors that I hate. Um,
Well, can we
that
look to see what other cities do? What does Tokyo do?
people just don't do it. People don't know
Well, they've
how
got
to.
the same kind of turnstile that we do in New York, where you can just jump over, but they just don't do it.
No, it's not even anything blocking it. You can just walk through. You tap
Really?
your ticket electronically. You tap your ticket, or you just slide your ticket. There might be like a little door that goes through. You could hop it, but no one does it.
Hmm.
No one hops it. No one hops it. And then
Okay, let me ask you this: why? Is it just a cultural thing? Is it a fear of enforcement? Like if someone were to hop it, would the police be
it's
on
a
them?
cu- it's no, it's a cultural thing. You know, that people just don't do it. Like, cause you just don't. For
Don't do
example, like if you left your laptop out on a bench
it. Mhm.
on the street in Manhattan or anywhere in New York City, it's not gonna be there when you come back. In
No.
Japan, more than likely, it's gonna be there when you come back, or someone has picked it up and dropped it off at the local police box,
Yeah.
as a lost and found. It's just
That's
because
just
people just
it
don't
reminded me
do it.
of riding my bicycle as a kid. I don't know where you were living when you were of the age where you would ride your bicycle everywhere, if you ever experienced that. But like when you're a kid and you just kind of ride your bike everywhere, it,
I
it
was in
was
multiple places.
it was inevitable. So were you well, okay? Were you in a place where it was inevitable? Because in New York City, back in their early '90s, it was inevitable that if you left your bike outside somewhere, went in and came back out, that bike was gone. And I'm talking about maybe like 10 minutes. Within like I would say within 10, 15 minutes, it was almost guaranteed to be gone.
Bro, it happened to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Happened to me many times.
yeah, I was in I can remember it was high school and I went to the arcade and I was in Hawaii and this was not like in a bad neighborhood. Um and I went into the arcade. I just put my bicycle in front of the door, right in front of the door, glass window, everything. Went in to pl and played a couple of games, came out within a few minutes, not even a long time. Gone.
Yeah.
Bike just gone.
Yeah.
Never to be seen again.
Right. Well, one time it happened to me, and my friend's mom drove us around the neighborhood, and we did find it. Someone just took it, rode it to where they were going to go, and they ditched it. And so we ended up finding it. But it was like the tire was jacked. I think they were angry about something. I don't know, because they just, I guess, threw it down on the floor. Because like when we found it, or maybe it got run over by a car or something like that. Because like the tire was all jacked up. It was like only gone for like a half an hour, right? Like the bike was destroyed.
You know what? And that was one time in Hawaii and California when I was living there, and I was living in military base housing. So this was on military base housing. And friend of mine was staying overnight, and I specifically remember because we woke up early and we were doing breakfast thing, and he got up, he put his shoes and socks on, and when you wake up, like who's trying to get ready? And he's like, "Oh, I always do that before." And I thought it was odd. Not 10 minutes later, we're hearing a noise outside, and someone is stealing my bike from the carport.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to put my shoes and socks on. He was already ready, and we chased this dude down on foot and across the neighborhood. And he eventually dropped the bike and then hopped the fence because there was a fence that blocked it off. So he wasn't living in military housing. He lived in the adjoining neighborhood, and he had to hop the fence, so he had to ditch the bike. But
Right.
yeah, like I don't even lock my bike here sometimes. Like,
Yeah, I was going to ask. So in Japan, it's different, right? People don't do that as much.
no, no, I don't even, sometimes I just don't even lock it.
Yeah, because that's what happened in New York. at a certain point, they started getting really big on the bike racks. That wasn't really my recollection is when I was younger, that wasn't really a thing as much, but I
Right.
guess because people started stealing more and more bikes all of a sudden, there was like a thing where everywhere you went, there was a bike rack, and they said you should lock up your bike wherever you would go. But then what would happen was sometimes you would come out and the lock would still be there with the tire attached to it, but they would disassemble the whole rest of the bike. So they took the
Right.
bike apart and would just leave the tire locked up to the rack.
Right. They're like, we're gonna take something.
Yeah,
Like
we
it
took the
was
whole rest
that
of the bike.
Denzel
Yeah,
clip. That
yeah,
Denzel click. I'm leaving here with something.
yeah, yeah.
It's it's a mentality thing, it's a culture thing. Um, it doesn't have to be that way.
Hmm. It is
And
that way. So now we got congestion pricing because of things like
right.
this. You can't look at these things in a vacuum. I think the fares
Absolutely.
problem is a big reason why we have this now, right? Because they're trying to
There's
make
lots of
yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into it. And there are legitimate concerns as well, right? Because this is a big conversation, a big political issue. So you have all kinds of people, all kinds of
sure,
voices in the mix here. And there are some
sure.
people who are sincere and genuine when they say, look, they're concerned about the environment and the smog, right? The
Absolutely.
emissions from the vehicles, absolutely. But again, that is why you give us better public transit. We would love to be able to get to Midtown Manhattan in a half an hour on a train. You know what I
Right.
mean? We would love that. Give us the Rockaway Beach Line. Give us the Queens Link. And so I do want to shout out the Department of Transportation and the president, President Biden, for the grant that we received, $400,000 for Queens Link. Now, I saw some people on social media saying, "Oh, so this is just another study. Hasn't this been studied plenty of times?" But there aren't studies that have been conducted yet that need to be conducted to move this along, right? So it isn't just a matter of studying it some more, because that has been done. Surveying residents, we saw overwhelmingly the neighborhoods around the right
Mm,
of way wanted the Queens Link. That was done. Queens College did a study, survey a few years back. I think, different things. There was a liability study. The MTA looks at it periodically, but there are certain steps in the process legally that have to be performed in order to move
right.
forward. And this $400,000 grant is big, and it's a signal, at least as of now, that the federal government is being kind to the project. Right? It's not a full-throated endorsement per se, but to
No.
get $400,000, I mean, that's better than
Right. That means
putting your money where your mouth is, right? And so,
it's an optimistic thing. It's
yeah,
like, okay, well, maybe there is something here that we need to take a look at. So let's
yeah,
throw a little money into it and see what can come of it.
right, absolutely. And the flip side is we're going to get a whole new federal government here in 6 days, and so will they be as friendly to us?
Right.
We don't know, but we're
Right.
thankful the money was allocated now, right? President trying to do some nice things on his way out.
Right. Right. So no, that's great. So congratulations goes out to the Queensling for that. And hopefully something really positive will come out with the
Yeah,
outcome that will help the people.
right. And the other piece of this is that the mayor's race is happening this year in New York City. In fact, the primary is only a few months away. Can you believe it? I mean, we're right. It's crazy because the race hasn't even really started yet. And yet the primary is only a few months away. It's kind of a
Right.
strange thing here because in New York City, let's be honest, the primary is really what determines who's going to win, right? The next mayor of New York City is going to be the winner of the Democratic primary. So it's really incumbent upon us as advocates for the Queens Link to meet with all of these candidates and ensure that they support the plan, right?
Right.
Because the city does have a big stake in what goes on here. It isn't just the federal government, but I've said repeatedly, you need buy-in from the federal government, you need the state, and you need the city. You need all players on board here, right? So let's make sure that the winner of the mayor's race in New York City supports the Queens Link. And I'm going to make a stand right now, and I'm going to say I will not support people. Andre might give me a hard time about this later. I think he'll be around.
Uh-oh.
Some people might try to say, what are you doing, Mike? I don't care.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hold on. Announcement. Let's go.
Now, I am
Where's
not
the
going.
soundboard?
Wait, you want a drum roll or something? What are you looking for?
I think the horns and stuff. Like you about to say something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here it comes. And I'm being real. I will not support a candidate for mayor who does not support the Queens Link.
Ooh,
So,
that's
it
big.
could be a popular candidate. Maybe he's great in other issues, but that's my issue, right? That's my main issue. That's like my litmus test that I just won't do it. I will not endorse a candidate who will not support the Queens Link because it's that important to us here in South Queens.
And what if there are no candidates that support the Queens League?
Well, there are candidates who support the Queens Link.
Okay.
There are a
What if
lot of
they have
candidates
no
running for
chance?
mayor, and some are already on record as supporting the Queens Link. But
What if they have no chance of winning?
well, it's not about who has a chance of winning. It's about whose values align with my own and also with our neighborhoods. That's very important. But it doesn't mean that I have to endorse anyone. I mean, maybe I'll go in and I'll vote, but I won't
All
give a
right.
public endorsement to a candidate
Got
unless they do that.
got you. Got you. Got you.
And
Good.
I think, like I said, people are already doing that. And the mayor, he's not looking great right now. We could talk about a poll that came out recently. He's not looking
No.
great, but he has not been a friend, quite honestly, of the Queen's Link, right? He's been supportive of the Queen's Way, I'm sorry, let me get this right. The deeply unpopular Queen's Way. You have to use that phrase. You cannot say Queen's Way without saying the deeply unpopular before it, because we did that survey that showed every neighborhood does not want this, and with large majorities, right? So the deeply unpopular Queen's Way is supported by Mayor Adams. And so if he were to win another term, I think he needs to be pushed on this as well. We can't let him get a pass also. And
Right.
if we're holding all the candidates' feet to the fire on this,
Right.
that may put some pressure on him as well, right? If every other candidate is like, we support the Queen's Link while you're the odd man out here, he may be
Right.
forced to say, oh, okay, I'll take a second look, at least in theory. With that said, did you see or hear about the latest poll that came out?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Put me up on game.
Yeah. So it was done by a third party group. It wasn't tied to any of the campaigns, right? But a group went out and they polled, I believe it was 800 likely Democratic primary voters in New York City. So a pretty big sample here.
Mhm.
And Adams had like 6%.
Mm.
I can pull this up. Maybe I can do a quick Google search, or you can find it really quick. You can pull it up. Um,
6% is
yeah. Now keep
pretty
in mind it's a big field, but not
pretty dire.
well. It's a big field, right? So many candidates, like a dozen candidates, but still not good for him. The number one candidate was Cuomo, who's not even in the race yet. I think he was
Mm.
at 32%, and then in second place you had Scott Stringer at 10%. If my memory serves me on this, so that's a big lead. It's like a 22-point lead for someone who's not even in the race yet officially. Uh,
Mm.
Stringer had 10%, and then you had your other candidates all in single digits, including Adams at 6%. Now, Adams responded to this, and he did a press conference holding up a newspaper from when he first ran for mayor, and Andrew Yang was the overwhelming favorite. He said Yang was in a position that Cuomo is in now. He's basically saying it's a matter of name recognition. Cuomo was the governor, Yang ran for president, and he ran for mayor, and that's why he had that big lead in the beginning, because people knew the name. But as the campaign got into full swing, things changed. And I would expect similar to happen here. I do think things are going to change. How are they going to change? I don't know, right? Can Cuomo lose that lead? Yeah, he can, but he could also keep
Mhm.
it if he gets into the race. If he doesn't get into the race, will the other non-Adams candidates continue to have their votes split, or will people coalesce behind one or two of the anti-Adams candidates? Because as of now, they're all just split. Everyone has like 6, 7, 8%. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then you have ranked choice voting to look at as well. Ranked choice voting plays a role.
Yeah.
In a situation like this, right, where you have so many candidates running, and they're all going to have a small share of the vote, at least if this trend continues, right? But what ends up happening is, as candidates are eliminated from the running, you look at who their voters chose as their second choice, third choice, etc. And then you do start to see sometimes candidates who occupy a certain lane getting bigger, right, in their vote tally, because they're eating up the vote totals of the other candidates who have similar voters as them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, like, let's say the progressive wing of the party splits their vote amongst four candidates, and they all come in with a pretty low total.
Mm,
As the last place candidate is eliminated, then if no candidate ends up with above the threshold on the first ballot, as candidates are eliminated, then these progressive voters' votes are going to be reallocated to other candidates, and eventually one of them will be stronger than the others, and then that one will end up with all of those votes. So someone who started off at 6% can jump up 12%, 24%, 50% eventually, maybe, right?
right. Shout out to Jeremy in the chat, and everyone else that's joining us for this first show for the year. It's gonna be interesting. Adams has got a rough road ahead of him. We talked about that towards the end of the year with what he's dealing with right now.
Yeah, with the indictment.
Yeah, man. So
The indictments, and they're rapidly losing support. Like I've been saying, if he doesn't get the matching funds, and if things don't start to improve for him, like a poll like this is not a good sign. If the trend continues, he may not run for re-election, or he may run as a Republican, which some people are speculating crazy. I don't think that that's a winning strategy, but he may be out of this Democratic primary.
it's still so weird to me that you know, politicians will switch up like that, and people are okay with it. People still vote for them. And I guess
Well,
in
are they
part
though? Because you wouldn't
voting
win.
for the person.
Are they okay with it?
I mean, what's gonna call it? Well, has she? Oh, I guess she hasn't really switched parties specifically. Like for example, I'm thinking recently that's come to mind is what's the one from Tulsi Gabbard? Is she
Yeah, she
still
switched.
Democrat? She
No,
switched?
yeah, she switched, but she's not in office anymore, is she?
She's not in office, but she's getting a lot of, well, I don't know if she's still in office, but she's getting a lot of support, at least from the other side, that she switched
Right.
to.
Well, okay, that will happen. People will love if you just switch parties. People on the other side would love it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
guess so.
But
Yeah.
people who backed you before aren't going to be happy with it unless they
But
just
like the
come down
parties that are
got
so,
loyalty.
the parties especially now are so diametrically opposed. Just the fact that you could switch is crazy to me. Like it doesn't, there's nothing over there that
Well,
aligns with what you've supposedly, the line you've
yes,
been supposedly carrying.
right. But keep in mind that the parties have shifted in many ways, right? And so if you were yourself the whole time, it's certainly possible that you feel that you no longer have a home in your party.
Yeah, but there's so much different. There's so many things that are different about the two parties that you can't all of a sudden feel like all of that over there is what you feel and you're gonna switch over. Like it doesn't make sense to me. It seems very opportunistic to me,
Sure.
versus
In some
instead of
cases,
being
yeah.
very
In some cases,
earnest.
yeah. But I'm also thinking of people who are kind of close to the line in the first place, right? Like maybe they were
Yeah, I suppose.
a very liberal Republican. I can see like a Mitt Romney becoming the
Yeah,
Democrat.
I guess I could see.
I don't predict that he will, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if it happened. You know what I mean? And then you have conservative Democrats who are like, the party's gotten
Yeah,
too, and it also depends on your perspective, right? Because you can argue that the party hasn't moved left, but you can also point out that there are louder voices now on the extremes of both parties. So you could be like, the extremists have co-opted my party and I can't stand for that anymore, right? Because there are people who say things like that. Like, I was at a meeting last night, honestly, Democratic meeting, somebody talked about the bread and butter issues of the Democratic Party that drew them to the party in the first place, right? They were talking about Social Security, Medicare,
yeah,
Medicaid, right? Minimum wage, labor unions, all that kind of stuff. They
right.
said, at least in terms of the messaging that's out there, the party seem to have moved away from that. And when the focus becomes on what they would describe as identity issues, they kind of feel like the party's out of touch with their values. You know what I mean? So,
And I get that
yeah.
completely.
Now, I
What
don't
what would
understand the
surprise me,
of going to the Republican Party, right?
right?
How are they better on those issues? But that has become the perception amongst a lot of people, and that's the problem.
But it's that, and that's that's one of the things that's baffling is because that's completely untrue. they want to get rid of Social
Right.
Security. They don't care about Medicare,
Yeah.
Medicaid, right? They're so anti-union and worker protection that even in the
Yes.
Trump
Yes.
administration, they tried to roll back even the protections for teenagers working in certain cases. Like, how do you go from this to that and
Right.
it makes sense? That
But it's a vibes thing. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are just misinformed about what the policies are. But you also have to put the burden on the parties for communicating the messages effectively, right? Because a lot of
absolutely.
people are under the assumption that the Democratic Party now favors coastal elites and different interest groups or what have you, but they don't support working class people. And I've gotten this knocking doors around here. People ask me,
Sure, sure.
why are you a Democrat? And I go back to the bread and butter issues, right? I believe in labor unions. I believe in a strong minimum wage. I believe in worker protections. I believe in Social Security and Medicare, all those things, healthcare, right? I want to expand healthcare access, all these things that help your average working class, middle class person, or someone struggling to get there. That's what
Right.
I believe in. The response I would get back from people is, I believe in those things too, but the Republicans are more aligned with that now than the Democrats. That's what they tell me.
But that's so untrue.
It's untrue, but that's what people believe.
And yeah, that's it's crazy. Yeah. Because I mean, and it's not like it's hard to find out that that's untrue. It's
Is
very
it?
blatant
Yeah.
to find out that it's
You know what
untrue. I
though?
understand being
It depends on what
disillusioned.
you're looking at. It depends. Everyone's in their bubble now. We're not all watching the same things. Some people
Yeah.
get information on TikTok, like we talked about before. Some people are looking just on Facebook, on Twitter, on Fox News, on CNN, whatever. They're only looking on one thing or what their friends are saying on their feed. And if their friends are all in a certain area with a similar type of ideology, then that's what they're
Yeah.
going to be getting those talking points. And they are getting things like that, right? And
And I get that, and I get the disillusion. I completely get the disillusion with some of the things that your party is pushing for, especially on the Democrat side, because I align more with what the Democrats generally traditionally go for. And I understand the disillusion. We've talked about it before. Some of the focuses that they've been put on are, just not a good strategy. Laying everything on the line for some of these different points. And so I get it. But it's just to know that it's not true what you're hearing. It's so easy to find out.
well, but see, then they'll pick certain things, they'll cherry pick
Sure,
things that happen, right? Like, for example, people could look at something that the previous administration did and they say, oh, okay, that's something that's good for middle class people. You know what I mean?
sure.
People talk about things like the First Step Act. Is that what it's called? The First Step Act? Um, is that what it's called? Was it the next step act, the second chance? You know what I'm talking about, right?
It sounds familiar.
People
I'm not
coming
sure
out of
exactly. It
people
was
coming out
about
the penitentiary.
right.
And they say, "Oh, look, Trump is actually better for people trying to make a life for themselves, right? Try to get a second chance than the Democrats are because of things that were passed while he was president. You know what I mean? Like, so they'll pick different things, trying to get the insulin prices under control. Is that something that he worked on?
I think Biden got it better.
He got it better, but wasn't Trump doing something like that as well with drug prices? I forget.
I
There
don't
was
remember.
something like that. But my point is, people will pick out little things like that, and they'll say, "Oh,
Sure.
look, this represents what that party is now because of these
Right.
individual things that were done."
Right. But see, here's the thing. For example, with the First Step Act, you're right. So Trump signed that, and that helped, people coming out of prison and whatnot. But if all you do is go type First Step Act into Google, and you see that this was a bipartisan effort, right? It's not all on, it's not something that
I think
Trump's
people
like,
think it
hey,
doesn't affect
I
people.
did this.
It doesn't
It's
matter.
something
It
people
doesn't
work.
matter. The gas prices go up, the president gets blamed, a law goes into effect, the president gets credit. I mean, that's just how it works.
It's
Same thing.
just,
Same thing with the mayor, by the way, in New York City. Crime is up. Oh, the mayor is doing a bad job, even if it's tied to economic trends and other things going on nationally.
I'm just saying it's people just need to do more due diligence. People need to look.
But we are where we are. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I
I
know.
agree
It
with
just
that.
that's
But
what's
that doesn't excuse us from communicating better.
No, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And and it seems to be um across the board right now, not just politics. Because just like when we were talking earlier, when I mentioned someone's like, yeah, if TikTok gets banned, the US is gonna be cut off from the rest of the world by information. Like, we're just so much not even looking into information and reality. We're just listening to, like you said, the bubbles and maybe emotional uh action activities, or expressing ourselves that way. It's just so crazy. Where's the nuance, people?
Right. Well, and I mentioned this previously. The Harris campaign made a mistake when they
Made a
said
lot.
they wanted to make the election a vibes election. That's what they had said, at least internally.
Yeah.
Right. This is not about policy. This is about vibes. Well,
Yeah,
when you
that's
do that, you're playing with fire, right? I mean, especially if you have the better policy, you need to be running on that policy.
yeah, that's ridiculous. Vibes. People can't make their lives better with vibes. They need some sort of foundation. They need something there, you know.
Yeah, see, I just pulled up a press release from 2020. President Trump announces lower out-of-pocket insulin costs for Medicare seniors. Now, I saw something else that he bragged about lowering insulin at the debate, which was fact-checked and shown not to be true, I guess. But,
Right.
the messaging that they're putting out there, at least. And
Right.
quite honestly, the Democrats are not doing a great job countering it.
No. He could announce that he could announce something, and then they'll run with that, and then he cannot do it and just run with, oh, well, I said this,
Mm-hmm.
even if he didn't put anything into effect and didn't even have any intention of putting anything into effect. He could just say, well, it's out there. You can go check the tape. I said it. Listen to me. I did it. I said it. And people are believing into that.
But then let's be honest, you have this going on as well. Now, I disagree with this philosophy, and I think this is used in a manipulative way, right? But take something like congestion pricing.
Hmm.
What people will tell you is the Democrats did this. Governor Hochul, she's a
Right.
Democrat. People who run the state, Democrat. People who run the city, they're Democrats,
Right.
right? The MTA appointed, controlled mostly by the state, but has city appointees as well. All Democrats have their hands in all of this. Uh, they're not for your average person. The Republicans are the ones who are saying that they're against it. And so, to
Right.
someone out there who's being hit with these fines and tolls, right? They're saying the Democrats don't have my best interest at heart because they're doing
Right.
stuff like this, and the Republicans are standing up for me because they're saying they're against it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Well, the
Yeah.
Republicans really aren't offering much in the way of solutions. They're just saying
Right.
we're against whatever Democrats do. And like I said, they're being manipulative because they're saying that because the people who run these cities and these states happen to be Democrats, that means that Republicans are better, which doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense, especially when you're not offering better solutions. It's easy to just lay blame on the people who happen to be in power, right? Um,
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
talk about the Democratic primary. If you don't like who's in office now, the answer isn't, well, put it in a Republican. No, you could put it in a better Democrat. You know what I mean? As a
Right.
primary.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
that's kind of a silly argument, but people make
Right.
it and it is effective. I think it does
It is.
resonate with people.
It is. And there's also, like, I don't know what you would call it, but a form of term amnesia. People, after 4 years of a term or 6 years of a term, whatever the term is on that in that position, people forget that they didn't like what the person was doing before, and now they got this other person from the other party in to do something, and now they're still not happy, so they want to go back to what they had before, which was when they were unhappy. It's just, you know, like after Bush, no one should have been voting Republican for, generations. And then after Trump, no one should have been voting Republican for more generations. But people, if I think it's a failing on both sides if people's lives aren't substantially changed in a way that they can tangibly feel it, they're just gonna blow whichever way the wind blows and be frustrated perpetually.
Right. There are people who are just anti-incumbent also because they feel like their lives are never getting any better. So they're always going to vote
Right.
for
And
that.
then at the same time, we can't even just lay it on the parties and the candidates. We also have to put it on the people to have realistic expectations, right? You can't expect that person coming into the office, while they can make substantial changes, one, they're not going to do everything specifically that you want done to the degree that you want it done. Some ways it's just not even possible. You have to be realistic about that.
Right.
You have
But
to
also
be.
sometimes the people standing in your way are the very people then that you're going to vote in next time. Because,
Absolutely. Like Obama spent 8 years with
or yeah, I mean,
unprecedented
there's so many,
obstructionism
so many
facing it.
examples of this. So what about trying to do something about the border? And well, we're not going to do that because it's bad electorally for us. And then you're going to vote for the person who was intentionally obstructing progress on the issue you care
Absolutely.
about. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, people do fall for the okey doke, I guess they call that.
The okey doke, yes. Don't
I
fall
got a
for the
crazy
that's
dog in
the
here. I don't know what the hell this guy won't shut up. Cody, come here.
that's what we need. We need t-shirts. Don't fall for the okey
Cody.
doke in big letters. So, you know, it's really crazy. Maybe he wants to weigh in on what's happening, you know.
Cody, what is
He,
your thought on all this? Okay, he says he agrees with whatever I say.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, he's
So,
co-signing. He's co-signing.
cosign.
Yeah.
Well,
So, all right. Before we wrap up, I wanted to let people know. I'm sure people know for the most part already, but for the sake of letting everyone know, the actual charges here with congestion pricing.
yes.
You gotta stop crying, my man. We're almost done with the show. Okay.
He doesn't like congestion pricing.
No, I don't blame him. So I don't know what he wants, quite honestly. Yeah, he's not going to stop.
He wants
Uh,
to repeal congestion pricing. I get it.
yeah. So peak hours, and there's a big difference here whether you're going to be peak or off peak. And peak goes till 9 p.m. on weekdays. So you're talking 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends. Those are your peak charges. And it's going to be $9 charged once per day for a car, $4.50 for a motorcycle, and then for trucks and buses, you're looking at $14.40 to $21.60. So a big charge there. But excuse me, if you're looking at the overnight charge, which is after 9 p.m., only $2.25 for a car. So that's a big jump if you have to drive into the city. Now, easy to say, right? Only drive at night. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have to go during the day. That's when things are going
Sure.
on. But this is useful for me because I often go, for example, when it's election time, we have to submit petitions to the Board of Elections. I do election law. I have a lot of clients that need their petitions submitted. Uh, the Board of Elections will stay open until midnight on those deadline days. And
Mm.
so it's going to be useful for me, right? If I want to avoid this $9 fee, maybe I'll
Mm-hmm.
go after 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So, keep that in mind.
Right.
Now, it is only once per day. You also get a break if you're staying on the highways. If you stay on the West Side Highway or the FDR Drive, if you don't exit onto a local street, you will not be charged the congestion fee. Um,
Okay.
but there's a question. I saw I think it was an FAQ somewhere. They're like, well, what if you take the what do you call that? The Queens. I'm drawing a blank. The Queens Tunnel. You know what I'm talking about. So you take
No.
the LIE to Manhattan. Is that called the Queens Midtown Tunnel, right? You take that and then you drive through Manhattan. So you're driving through 34th Street and then you drive into New Jersey, right?
Mm.
So there's a lot of people, they're not intending to drive to Manhattan. They're just driving through Manhattan on the way to Jersey or somewhere else. You still will be charged a congestion fee at that point because you're exiting the tunnel onto a local street below 60th Street. And so driving through 34th Street, even if it's through Manhattan, you're still going to be hit with that $9 charge on peak time.
Mm.
So it looks like anytime you're driving in Manhattan, south of 60th Street, unless you're staying on the highway and not taking a local street, you're going to be subjected to this toll.
Right. And yeah, so we'll see how this works out. You know, the idea is that it's supposed to reduce congestion. Preliminary statistics is showing that it's not meeting the 17% projection. It's 7% but more statistics are due to be released in February. So
Right. And we'll see if an adjustment is made as a result of the
right.
results here. That would be nice. Let's be honest, we're probably going to get a lawsuit as well now that this has taken effect. People are going to say they've suffered
Mm.
these damages as a result. And
Mm.
some have speculated our current US Supreme Court may strike it down, right? We don't know. Um, we'll see where that goes, you know?
Right.
Don't forget the bridges and the tunnels as well, right? You got your East River crossings, Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, Queensboro Bridge, tunnels like Lincoln Tunnel, Holland Tunnel, Hewlett Carey Tunnel. So big changes are going on, and we will see to what degree it affects people's behavior. And
Right.
what happens? Will it have the intended result, or is it just going to continue to punish people and harm people trying to make a living, just trying to get to where they got to go?
Yeah.
Why do you always want to punish? That's the maybe that's the bottom line here. I don't know. That's a paradigm
Oh,
that we need. Why are we always trying to punish people when we could be incentivizing good behavior? Are we that cynical? Have we just become that cynical as a society that we think the only answer to get the change we want is to punish people for everything? Like, there's no way we can convince people to do the right thing. We just have to make it harder for them to do the wrong thing.
I wonder if this is, it's kind of, saying that makes me go back to the way our prison system changed. I believe that was during Reagan when it went from a rehabilitation ideology to more punishment.
I believe that
And
was during Kennedy, if I'm not mistaken. That was in the 60s.
was it when they started to cut college or education and all that?
I think a lot more happened during Reagan when you had like the war on drugs, things like that. And
Right, right.
yeah, okay. But I believe the model, the US prison model changed philosophically in the 60s. At least that's what I learned in law school.
Mm.
That's when they stopped focusing on rehabilitation and they started going to retribution.
So that would mean we're talking 60 years at this point. I mean, maybe that's just what we are now. I mean, it's how do we get back? How do we change that?
But also, what does it do to us as a society? Am I getting too deep into thinking that this is going to have impacts on us beyond just policy? That if our government is operating this way, this is going to have an effect even on our interpersonal relationships and our private lives. I mean, like, basically, it's just setting the tone here for saying we don't trust anyone to do the right thing.
I don't think that's getting too deep. I think that's the reality of where
Yeah,
we're at. I mean, that's why so many unsubstantiated, easily disproven theories and ideologies are proliferating is because people just are so cynical about everything. And I'm not saying that they don't have a good reason to be. I'm saying that it's what they want to believe now, right? You don't go and research if this is right or wrong because you want to believe it's right because it already aligns with what you believe. And that seems to be where everyone's at right now. So that's a problem.
that
How do
sounds
we
like the
fix
bottom
that?
line.
Huh?
That sounds like the bottom line. Yeah,
Sounds like we got
I just
double
think,
work.
look, it's 2025, it's a new year. I'm not big on New Year's resolutions, but
Uh-oh.
it's a good time to signal that we want something different.
Yes.
And why don't we start there? Why don't we start by trying to move away from punishing everything, punishing, finding people for, I mean, really think about it. Think about this. It's like, I'm just kind of baffled as to how do we get here where we have this problem that we've identified that
Mm.
congestion is an issue, right? There's too much congestion in Manhattan, especially south of 60th Street. Okay, fine, let's accept that premise. Too much congestion, good. I agree. Um, how do we start with that and end with, well, the answer is to punish the hell out of people who are trying to get into the city or trying to get through the city or trying to make a living? Why is it about punishment? Why wouldn't the answer be, oh, I've got a great idea. Build the damn Queens link. Or let's crack down on the fare evasion, right? There are so many different things that you could be doing to incentivize. And I guess cracking down on fare evasion would fall under punishment in a sense as well, but that's committing a crime. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? That's a little different. That's not punishing people who are just trying to commute. That's actually enforcing people who are breaking the law already. So,
Right.
but why don't we do that? Why don't we focus on incentivizing the good behavior? If you give us better public transit, more people will take public transit. That's not rocket science.
And yeah, I mean that's that also, let's put more into this remote work. People won't have to go in, and that can also reduce the congestion, reduce people's commutes because they won't have any commutes. That will reduce some stress as well, reduce strain on the infrastructure.
Yeah.
There are different things to explore, different options to be
Right. Different
considered.
hours, right? It doesn't have to be the same.
Doesn't
Not
have to be the same hours.
right. Yeah, you can do different things. Creative solutions. This is not, I don't know. I don't think it's creative. If it was creative, it's not creative in a productive way. Maybe it's creative,
Right.
but not productive. Uh, this is not it. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is not the way to go.
All right.
So, let's hear from the people. I know we've asked about it before, but I'm interested in people's thoughts. What are your creative approaches that would serve as alternatives to congestion pricing? What do you think we should be doing? Right? We know one issue is, I guess, the MTA needs more revenue. Okay. Another issue is we're taking it at face value that there's too much congestion and pollution in the city, right? So if we're to, yeah, so if we're to address these problems, how do we do it without trying to punish people who are just trying to get by? Right?
Yeah.
Who just living their life. They're not trying to break any laws. You know what I mean? We're not talking about people jumping turnstiles, whatever. We're talking about people who are just trying to get to work, trying to get to school, trying to go where they got to go. You know what I mean? Who thinks it's a good idea to just charge people more money? People, our main concern right now is having more money in our pockets, right? We're talking about the prices of groceries and gas and all these different things. Inflation has been an issue for the past year plus. Well,
Right.
okay, coming out of COVID, that's to be expected, right? So how is the answer to charge us more?
Right. In a city where we noted several times last year where there were studies came out that a majority of people are more than 50% were having trouble just paying for basic needs.
Yeah.
Like, where does this extra money supposed to come from?
Right. 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 Well, it's not. It's really. I don't know. I guess the philosophy here is, well, the people who can afford it will do it and they'll just take it on the chin, and then the people who can't afford it are going to suffer, but they think that what's going to force them onto trains or buses, I guess, right? Where people, like we said before, may not even pay the fare. I don't know.
Yeah.
And obviously congestion is an issue when people aren't paying too. If people can just get on the bus for free, obviously they can be overcrowded.
Right.
So yeah, why wouldn't, right? If it's just a free ride for everyone. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, let's like you said, let's think about 2025 in a different way, and how we
Yeah.
can all,
Yeah.
you know, uh, make a shift to where we're obviously at right now, away from where we're obviously at right now, and the direction that we're continuing to head in, and think about things that are more creative, or think about um, something that's more supportive versus punishing.
Right, right. And someone needs to, by the way, you're going to laugh. You always laugh. Someone needs to stand up to the war on car people. You saw it again with the speed limit thing. You saw this, right? I posted it on New Year's Day.
Yeah, this
Let me
war
pull it
on car people.
up. Say it again.
It's yeah. You're right. I'm gonna laugh with when you every time you say war on car people.
But it's true, right? It's happening. Here you go. NYC DOT posted this, and we ask, why are the Democrats losing support? Again, it's a manipulative argument, but it works when people use it because Democrats run the city. So it's easy for someone to say they did
Right.
this, therefore you got to vote against them all, right?
Right.
I'm letting you know I'm a Democrat and I don't support this nonsense. And so that argument doesn't make any sense, but it works on people.
Right.
Here you go. NYC DOT. We're putting the 20 in 2025. By the end of this year, hundreds of locations across the city will have a reduced speed limit of 20 miles per hour. Is it going to stop at 20? What's next? 15? 10?
I don't think we're gonna see 10. I mean,
Oh, you want to bet?
yeah, I would take that bet. 10 in this Come on.
Not in the next
That's a
year,
little
not in the next year. But you don't think that's where they're going? If they get this down to 20, you
yes.
don't think 15 is next? You don't think 15 is
I don't think so.
You
I
don't
don't
think
think
10 is next? You don't
I
think at
don't
a certain point there will be a negative speed limit in New York City?
so everyone has to drive backwards.
Yes, everyone's going to be having to drive
It's gonna
back
be required to drive backwards. That's
the next
it.
20 years. No, in all seriousness, this is going further down. And this is not some weird, wacky conspiracy theory. It's happening. And if you read the comments, people are calling for this. People are saying 20 is too fast. It needs to be 15. It needs to be 10. It needs to be 5. Small d energy. I was going
It's
off on
never gonna be 5 or 10.
I'm going off on a tangent here. One time I was driving with my new Lexus and a group of kids, it's actually kind of funny, a group of kids in the car in front of me all looked out the window and went like this to me. And I think they were trying to say I had small d energy for driving a Lexus, like I was trying to compensate by having a nice car. I thought it was kind of funny, but I think of that now every time I see something like this. When I see people in the comments saying the speed limit needs to be 2 miles an hour, I just have this in my mind. This is what I have in my mind, right? I think of those kids looking out the window. It's small d energy is what that is.
Yeah, it's
But you got to stand up to these people because they are getting their way. As you can see, these are the same folks behind the congestion pricing pushing for it. They want to punish people who have cars because they're jealous. But it's messed up. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's
I don't think
absolutely
it's
crazy.
necessarily jealousy.
Get
I
to know
mean,
some of these folks. Get to know
in
some of them.
all
You
seriousness,
look
there,
at,
I
I'm
mean,
being serious. If you look at some of the stuff that they actually say, like they shouldn't be able to park their private property on a public street. They have so much derision for people who have a car. God forbid you have a car. Come to South Queens. Get out of Williamsburg or wherever you live with your bicycle where you can drive over the bridge to whatever you're doing. Come to these neighborhoods and see how we have to live. And I'm not saying they're bad, terrible neighborhoods. They're great neighborhoods, but the character is such, and we don't have great public transit here. We need to
right.
drive to get around. That's just the reality of where we live.
It's a pain point of a society that was built with vehicle transportation in mind. Now we're to a point where there's a little bit too many vehicles, it's overcrowded, and we should have been thinking of better planning as far as our cities go. And now it's like, how do we go one way or the other?
But you see rhetoric and hear rhetoric from leaders in the city, not just people in the comment section. You actually also see it from leaders because they're influenced by these interest groups, right? You hear things like a vision for a car-free New York City, a car-free
Okay.
future. So this isn't some like conspiracy theory that we just made up that there's a war on cars. No, there literally is, quite literally, they're trying to get rid of the cars and punish people who drive. Congestion pricing, Exhibit A. I rest my case. I mean,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
not, it's not a joke. This is not some weird, crazy tinfoil hat.
I think there's a happy medium. There's a happy medium in there. Because it's, listen, there'd been times when you'd come from where I was at in Valley Stream and we go into Manhattan and it would take 2 hours to get there. That is utterly ridiculous and unacceptable. There's entirely too many vehicles on the road. There has to be a happy medium on
Yeah,
how
but
to
what if
deal
you
with this.
try to take the A train into the city and there are delays, right? And all things are
Didn't
going.
they just get rid of the A train or something? Or
Oh yeah, the limited service. But yeah, so you try to take the A train, and and that takes you an hour and a half, 2 hours.
it's and it's what, like 10 miles or something. It's
Yeah,
really not that far.
if you travel New York City on jet ski, you see how small it actually is. You can
It's really not that far. It shouldn't be
fly.
2 hours in
It
bumper to
should not.
bumper
It
traffic.
really should not. And again, better public transit. Build the
Better
Queens.
public transit, better
Build the Queens
solutions to
link.
the overcrowding.
That's it right there. Yes, 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 yes. Right.
Yeah.
The carrot, not the stick. For crying out
So
loud.
I think, you know, we need in personal jetpacks, as well.
But everything that we're saying sounds so reasonable. And then there are groups who, for example, hate the ferry. And they say that's a waste of money. It's so subsidized. It's a luxury boat. You don't need that. So it's
No, the
like
ferry's absolutely, that's ridiculous. That's
they
absolutely
didn't say
necessary.
that. These same people that they'll say that, right? Because they want everything to be a bike lane or a bus or a subway, I guess, and that's it. No other forms of transportation.
Yeah, no, I remember when we took the ferry from Rockaway to Manhattan. Like it's a
Crucial.
no-brainer. It should be there.
Needs to be there.
Especially in a city that is surrounded by water.
Right.
To not have water transportation is
Right.
insanity.
Right.
To
Right.
have not have another option like that is insanity. And it's a great ride. Like what?
But this is what we're up against. Someone at a meeting was asking, well, how is his 92-year-old mother supposed to get to her doctor's appointment if you shut down the roads, right? They're turning the lanes for traffic into bike lanes, and they're saying they want everyone out of their cars. And she's like, well, he asked serious question. How should my mom, who's 92, get to her doctor's appointment? And with a straight face, the advocate, right, who was calling for all this stuff, what he answered was she should ride her bicycle. And that's the insanity that we live with in New York City right now. You know what I mean? And to tie it back to what we were talking about before, you wonder why we as Democrats are having struggles. Because for better or for worse, fairly or unfairly, that lunacy gets associated with us. Right? And we have to deal with that.
True enough, true enough.
So, all
All
right.
right then. So
Yeah. We didn't do a poll. We'll do a poll next time.
yeah, we'll do a poll next time. Welcome to 2025.
Yes.
And of course, follow us on YouTube and Instagram, everywhere podcasts are available. And come check us out next week.
If you are trying to punish instead of thinking of ways to incentivize the good, you get the rubber chicken of the week. As
Absolutely.
always, we've got work to do. We'll catch you next time. Welcome to the new year.